What's up guys, it's Fran. Thanks for clicking to watch this video. So if you didn't know, I used to be in the Air Force. My job in the Air Force was financial management controller. So basically I worked in the finance office. I did customer service, and then now that I'm out of the Air Force, I actually work for the Defense Finance and Accounting Services, or DFAS, and they're the ones who are contracted by the federal government to pay for everybody who's a part of the Department of Defense, which includes the military members and all civilian members as well. So my job at DFAS is still basically working on military pay. I'm still considered a military pay technician, as I was when I was in the Air Force. The only difference is now that I work at DFAS, I work majority with retired or separated members in their debt management. But when I was still in the Air Force, my job was customer service. So basically I worked at a counter and I would answer questions throughout the day. I did paperwork for military members to update their pay management and stuff like that. So today specifically I wanted to come and give advice on how to read your l.e.s, or a leave and earnings statement. Your leave and earnings statement is basically a pay stub. If you guys ever had a job before, you know that you get a pay stub every time that you get paid. For the military, a pay stub is called a leave and earnings statement. A leave and earnings statement basically details everything that has to do with your pay for that month, and it gives you other information such as your exemptions, if you're married, what kind of changes happened to your pay within that month. If there wasn't any type of changes, it just tells you where to go get extra information, etc. I think it's very important for our military members to know how to read their l.e.s. That way you know what's going on with your pay. I suggest that everyone reads their l.e.s. literally every time you get one. Things can change in the blink of an eye, and it's just important that you follow up with it and you know what's kind of going on, what changes, what doesn't change, etc. on your paycheck. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So most important is that every branch in the military gets the same, pretty much the same version of a leave and earnings statement. And it looks the same in the Air Force as it does in the Army, as it does in the Navy. So information in this video specifically should be able to help everyone in the military branches read their l.e.s. The only thing I will say to caveat that is, I was in the Air Force, so a lot of my perspectives on how things work is Air Force specific, so it might not apply to other branches, and I'll be sure to let you know which part of those don't apply to your branch. So an l.e.s for active duty members typically covers a 30-day period unless there's something retroactively going on. The l.e.s is actually made up of 4 parts. These parts include the administrative data, or your personnel data, things that are just about you specifically. Next is the information specific to that month, so your actual pay information. Following that is the leave and wage information, as far as your taxes and your additional TSP stuff goes. And lastly are the remarks. Let's go into detail about what each of these sections entail. Section 1. Personnel/administrative data. So I like to say that this information is a reflection of your personnel file. In the Air Force, we have a squadron called the Military Personnel Squadron, I think something like that, MPS. And basically they take care of everything that has to do with personnel as far as your administrative data. So these are the people who put in all of your paperwork as far as what your name is, what your social security number is, if you're a male or a female, where you live at, what's your home of record, etc. This section of the l.e.s tells you your name, your social, your grade, your pay date or your date of entry, so the date that you entered into the military, your years in service, your ETS date or when your contracts end, your branch of service, the finance office that is responsible for making sure your pay record is updated, and the pay period for which the l.e.s applies. So here are some important things that I want you to remember. When it comes to this top section, finance cannot change this, in the Air Force at least. I'm not sure about the other branches, but as far as this section goes, finance in the Air Force cannot change this section. So for instance, let's say that In your contract, before you go to basic training, you are supposed to complete basic training, complete tech school maybe, and then they would automatically give you your E3 rank. Basically, until personnel updates your rank in their system, it will not reflect in finances system. So if you get your first l.e.s. and it reads that you are still considered an E1, you would need to go to take your contract to personnel and make sure that they update it in their system. And once that's updated, it will automatically reflect into finances system. Again, this is just Air Force wise. I'm not sure about the other branches. The next section is section 2. I would consider this your pay data. This basically breaks down what you got paid, your entitlements, versus what you got taken out, your deductions, and it basically tells you the exact payment amount that you should have seen deposited into your bank accounts. The pay data itself is also broken down into 4 sections. The first section is entitlements. All military members get these 3 basic entitlements: your base pay, your BAS, and your BAQ/BAH. Your base pay. This is your salary. If you look at a military pay chart and you want to see what an E3 makes, this will tell you the base salary that you should make every month. Your base pay is dependent on your grade. So depending on what your grade is, let's say you're an E1, you're supposed to make $200. Rather, if you're an E5, you're going to make $500, if that makes sense. Next is your basic allowance for subsistence. This is basically food money. Every military member should get this. It doesn't matter if you live in the dorms or if you're enlisted versus an officer, everybody gets this. And it's the same rate no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're married, it doesn't matter if you have children. This entitlement is for the military member only. It is not to be inclusive of the dependents or anything like that. The only difference is officers make less than enlisted members in this category specifically. The next one that every military member will see is BAH/BAQ. BAH is the basic allowance for housing or basic allowance for quarters. This is an administrative input, usually about 30 cents if you do not live in the dorms, but can be about $5, $6, or $7, maybe $8 if you do live in the dorms. It could also be more if you are leaving tech school and going to your first duty station. You get what's called a transient rate BAH during that time period, but majority speaking, it's going to be within like 30 cents if you are already receiving BAH, or you will only receive at the most like $8. The other type of entitlement that most military members will get is just regular basic allowance for housing. This is basically with or without dependents. It changes based on your location and your rank. There's a lot of different types of entitlements that you could get when you're in the military. Basically, entitlements they have allowances and they have different types of pays. If it's an allowance, it's tax-free. Remember that allowances are not a part of your base pay. This is an additional thing they're giving you on top of your base pay. So this is not a part of your salary. Base pay is its own entity. Basically, this is something extra that military members get specifically for being military members. The next part of your pay data section is your deductions. This is where you see your taxes, your life insurance, your TSP, your Air Force retirement home deduction if you are enlisted. It's also where you see any type of debts that you have, or if you live in the dorms, it would be where you have meal deductions. And lastly, it shows your mid-month pay. An important part to remember about your monthly pay is that military members are technically only supposed to be paid once a month. The pay period for each month ends on the 30th of each month. This means that you're technically only supposed to be paid on the 1st of the next month for that previous month's entitlements. So your mid-month pay shows up in your deductions column as something like an advance. It's basically telling the system that they already paid you half of what you were entitled to for that month. If you would like to only be paid once a month, then just go to your finance office. That means that they can update your pay record to only pay you on the first of each month. Remember that as far as taxes go, so your state taxes, your Medicare, your Social Security, your federal taxes, these are only taken out of your taxable income. This means that the base pay that is showed in your entitlements is the only thing that's taxed in your entitlements. So if you read the total in your entitlement section as $2,000, but your base pay is only $900, that means the only taxable income is that $900. Unless you are entitled to other different types of pay, then those will be taxable. Part 3 in the pay data section is the allotments. Allotments are a little complicated to get into, but basically it's something where you can choose to have money taken directly from your paycheck and deposited into a different place. So you can put it into a savings account without having to actually transfer funds from your bank account into that savings account. A lot of people use this as far as sending this to a different bank account so that they can pay bills, or sending it to another bank account so that it's just saved and they don't touch that specific amount of money. What you can remember about allotments is it's taken out of the 15th and the 1st or end of month paycheck. So it's taken out of your mid-month paycheck and your end of month paycheck. Whenever it's taken out of the mid-month paycheck, let's say you were going to put in an allotment for $200. Basically, in your mid-month paycheck, it would take out $100 and kind of hold that money out into space. And then it would take another $100 from your end of month paycheck and deposit that full $200 into your account. You can do your own allotments as long as you have the routing information and the accounting number information. You can do that all yourself in MyPay. And the last part of the payment data is the summary. So the summary is made up of a couple of different sections. It has the amount or credit brought forward. It also lists your total entitlements, your total deductions, your total allotments. This amount should match the amounts listed as totals at the end of each section previously mentioned. And then it shows your net amount. Your net amount is what you were entitled to be paid once all of your taxes and deductions were removed. And lastly, it shows your end of month pay. This should be what you saw reflected in your bank account on the 1st of the month. Remember that the 1st of the month's paycheck is the end of month for the previous month. This means for mid-month, you're paid from the 1st to the 15th. For end of month, you're paid from the 16th through the 30th. That is what you get in your bank account on the 1st of each month. The other two sections that are in the payment data are diems and retirement plans. I'm honestly not the best to ask about these. The diems would also be a personnel factor. It's something that would be in your personnel file. And your retirement plan would be what you elected to be included in. Anybody who was in the military before 2018 are automatically put into the pension or the old retirement plan. And then everyone in the military after 2018 are automatically put into the blended retirement plan. And this is what the section that tells you which plan you were elected into. All right, section 3. This is, I like to call it your leave and wages information. As far as leave goes, you will earn 30 days of leave a year. That is 2.5 days of leave a month, or a half a day of leave per every 6 days. Your l.e.s. should reflect the total amount of leave you have up to that pay period. However, to caveat this, double check with finance on your actual leave balance, because this wouldn't be reflective of any type of leave that you took before that pay period, or depending on when you got that leave in. Your finance office might not have been able to input that leave before you were able to get paid, if that makes sense. So basically, this should be close enough to what your leave balance is. But if not, like I said, double check with your finance office. If you're in the Air Force, look on LeaveWeb. And also know that your leave will change towards the end of each month. So that's going to tell you what you should have for that month. This section also tells you the breakdown of your federal wages, like the deductions, and the total entitlement amount that they have taxed, along with your state deductions and the state wages. It tells you all that information down there. It tells you your exemptions, whether you're single or married in the system. It also gives you information about your TSP elections. So just so you know, TSP means the Thrift Savings Plan, and it's basically an investment. You can choose to put in 1% of your pay, 2% of your pay, and basically it saves up and adds interest, and depending on the department you work for, they would match that amount, and you would be able to take it out and whenever you're about to retire or whenever you need a loan on it, etc. I'm not the best on TSP, but there's people in Airmen and Family Readiness Centers. If you're in the Air Force, the Army has other types of things that are pretty similar to that. I'm sure the Navy and Marines do too. They have experts in real world finance and accounting, not federal finance and accounting. So they would be able to give you more information on how TSP works. But basically you'll have the option between putting in traditional or putting in Roth. Traditional means that the money that you put in will not be taxed up front. So you would put in, let's say you're going to put in $100 a month. It would just put in that whole $100, and then in 20 years when you want to take it out, it would tax that amount, whatever that amount is. So it would tax it 22% if you were to take it out this year. On the other hand, if you chose to do Roth taxes it up front. That way when you do choose to take it out, you would take out that exact amount. So it's taxed 22% up front, and then whenever you go to take it out, you get that full amount basically. As far as your exemptions, your TSP, your allotments, all of those types of things can be changed in MyPay by you. You don't have to go into the finance office to change this information. Whenever you're in the military, I do advise you to get familiar with MyPay. That way you can not only track your payments, but you can change what you want to change when you need to change it. Obviously, if you get married or divorced or anything like that, you would have to go into the finance office. But if you just wanted to change your allotment amount, you can do that yourself. If you wanted to update your exemptions, you can go and do that yourself. If you wanted to change the percent that's coming out for your TSP, you can do that yourself right into MyPay. So you don't have to go into the finance office to do that kind of stuff. And I would advise that you do it there. That way you know and you can track what you want going on. And the last section of your l.e.s. is the remarks section. This is basic information about what's going on your l.e.s. It gives you the information about your life insurance. It tells you what the amount is of the life insurance. It also tells you what's been changing on your l.e.s. So let's say you went in and started an allotment. In the remarks section, it would say allotment started on this date. Or let's say you got married or got divorced or you moved out of the dorms. It would tell you your BAH information changed. And then also, if you wanted to change your bank account information, which is something else you could do on MyPay, whatever you go through to change that information and update whatever your banking information is, it will tell you at the bottom of your l.e.s. what that bank is. A lot of situations happen in the military where a member will go in to change their banking information before they get paid. Depending on when they do, it could affect where that money is sent. So if you wanted to know which bank your money was sent to, check the bottom of that l.e.s. so that you can see whether it took effect or it didn't. And lastly, in the remarks, it should tell you a year-to-date entitlement amount and year-to-date deduction amount. And that's basically is going to show you for each month. So in the month of January, it might not be that much money, but by the time you get to December, it should match closely with your W-2. I suggest keeping track of this as well so that you can make sure that you're getting the correct amount of wages taken out, and that, you know, they're not overtaking money. We've had a few members, obviously it's mostly just members who get additional entitlements, where that amount can be off, and it can affect their income tax time, and it can affect how much money they have to pay the government. So just double check that information. So now that we've covered the full l.e.s, all of its sections, I just wanted to come and give you a few reminders at the end of this video. First, just remember that the top section of your l.e.s, or the administrative data, is updated by personnel when you're in the Air Force, and I'm sure it's in other sections as well. Finance does not change this information. This is your actual military file, and for this information to be updated, you have to go to the personnel sections, whatever branch you're in. So just remember that you are paid every 30 days. This means that what you earn from the 1st to the 15th is what you receive in your bank account on the 15th of each month. What you earn from the 16th to the 30th is what you receive in your bank account on the 1st of each month. Remember that you can also change a lot of information on MyPay. If you guys would like a detailed example of what you can change in MyPay, let me know, and I can do another video and break down how to change information on MyPay. Your l.e.s will actually appear in MyPay around the 21st, between the 21st and 25th of each month. And you should receive an email for when it appears in MyPay. So just make sure to go and check at the end of each month what your pay was for that month. And lastly, remember that you should earn 2.5 days of leave per month, which is, again, a half a day leave about every 6 days. So make sure you're tracking that information, and if you take leave, make sure that posts so that it does reflect on your l.e.s and that it is accurate information. So just keep track yourself about what you are entitled to. And that is all that I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too boring for you. If you have questions, just comment down below and I'll do my best to help. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.